Welcome to the first segment of our Article 5 primer, What is an Article 5 Convention? I'm Vickie Deppe, and I'm the editor of the State Legislators' Article 5 Caucus newsletter. Are you ready? Let's get to work. The Article 5 Convention is a valuable tool in the checks and balances structure of our government. When most Americans hear the phrase checks and balances, they think of the three branches of our federal government: the legislative, executive, and judicial. What most people don't realize is that the interplay between the states and the federal government is a component of our checks and balances system too. This relationship is called federalism. Many people can think of ways that the federal government checks the states. Fewer are familiar with the constitutional means that the states have to check the federal government. Using Article 5, the states can unite to impose reforms on Washington when Congress can't or won't take action on our behalf. In the case of Article 5, these reforms take the form of constitutional amendments. So how do the states amend the Constitution? The states have the constitutional authority to propose amendments, but since the 50 states don't meet together on a regular basis like Congress does, they need to schedule a special meeting if they want to talk about amending the Constitution. That meeting is called an Article 5 Convention because it's called under the authority of Article 5 of our Constitution. How do they do that? Well, if a state legislature wants to have a convention to propose amendments, that legislature passes a resolution and sends it to Congress. This is called an application, and it could say, we only want to talk about this one thing, or it could say, we'll talk about anything. In some states, a supermajority is required to pass this legislation. Once Congress receives these applications from 2/3 of the states, which at the moment is 34, Congress is required to call, or in other words, name the date and location of, the convention. Each state can send a delegation to that meeting where they will discuss and vote on one or more amendments. Amendments that are approved at the convention are required to undergo the same process of ratification as those that originate in Congress. 3/4 of the states must ratify any amendment before it becomes part of our Constitution. As you can see, this is a complex process with the highest threshold for success of any political action undertaken in the United States. So only amendments that enjoy overwhelming support stand any chance of getting all the way through this process and becoming part of our Constitution. But is this really necessary? Let's ask President Obama. Remember when, 6 years into his presidency, he famously opined, "You can't change Washington from the inside." He was mercilessly mocked by Republicans, but the truth is, the founders had come to the same realization over 2 centuries prior. Take, for example, George Mason. He was a delegate at the Constitutional Convention and was recorded as pointing out that if Congress was the only body with the power to propose amendments to the Constitution, then no amendments of the proper kind would ever be obtained by the people if the government should become oppressive. So he proposed, and the rest of the delegates concurred, that the states have the same authority to amend the Constitution as Congress has. Has the government become oppressive? Gallup has been asking Americans how they feel about their government for nearly a half-century. For the past 15 years, congressional approval has hovered around 20%. It's big news if they break 30. The number of Americans who disapprove of the job Congress is doing outnumbers those who approve by over 2-1. Yet, the incumbent re-election rate is consistently around 90%. If you could perform your job that badly and not have to worry about keeping it, would you want to change anything? Of course not, and neither do they. Washington is broken, but the states can fix it. Article 5 is their tool.